we changed up the location a little bit. We decided, like, let's do this outside. So we're outside. There's actually a pool on the other side, but there's people there. And I'm not trying to give them any screen time. So what are we going to talk about today?
There is this huge controversy going on. I've told you a little bit about it. One of them is Karmelo Anthony, and the other one is Austin Metcalf. So essentially what ended up happening is that there was these two 17-year-olds at a track meet in Texas. I don't know which city, but essentially Karmelo was sitting at Austin's tent, and I guess it was raining, so it makes sense that he was just trying to take cover.
A tent for what, though? Like a tent, like a
When you
barbecue?
go to no, a tent, because have you ever been to a track meet?
No.
Everyone usually sits underneath the tents, and each tent would have like your school logo, and that's how people kind of like huddle up together. And so essentially, they attended the other person's tent.
Mm-hmm.
And Austin didn't like the fact that he went over to his tent, was like sitting with his team.
Mm-hmm.
So he told him to get up and move.
Oh,
and
okay.
Karmelo was like, no, like, I'm not going to get up. You're going to have to make me get up and move. And then he was like, oh, I'm going to make you. So he starts grabbing his bag and grabbing his belongings, kind of like pushing him out of the tent. And that's when he grabbed a knife out of his that's when Karmelo grabbed a knife out of his backpack and he stabbed him like in the chest.
So these track meets, it's like running, right?
Yeah.
So why would he have a knife with him?
That's a controversy. So the whole thing is like Karmelo is being sentenced to life in prison, which a lot of people don't agree with that. One, he's a 17-year-old, and then two, his defense was he was acting in self-defense because he was being threatened to be like, kicked out and like punched or whatever. And so his defense was, oh, well, I was just acting in self-defense. But then obviously it's like, no, you murdered somebody. So how do you consider that self-defense?
Okay.
There's a lot of people so his bond is at like 1 million right now. A lot of people have actually done a GoFundMe page for him to try to raise enough money to like bail him out. Which I don't necessarily agree with that, just because it's like, if you did a crime, you're going to have to do the time.
So what's the controversy then?
The controversy is, does he deserve a lifetime in prison?
I mean, he committed a crime, so...
But this is a 4.0 GPA student. This is a student raised with both mom and dad, very well-mannered. This is a student who has never had any, like, history of being a criminal, has never done anything wrong. All his, friends and people at school, they're like, this is a really good kid. This is a decision that obviously he acted on within like a second. It took like a second for him to like react and be like, oh, like, I feel threatened. I'm gonna grab a knife out of my backpack and stab him to defend myself. So is that worth having your whole entire life in prison? That's a controversy.
I mean, if you think about it, like, sometimes things happen. Like I don't know I don't know how his life is, his family life is.
Right.
Just because someone says they have a great life doesn't mean they have a great life. I mean, obviously, if he carries knives with him and he murdered somebody and killed somebody, even if it's in self-defense, so they say, I don't think a good person actually does that. And just because someone has good grades in school, it doesn't make them a stellar person in society. We have a lot of sociopaths who do really well, but they don't know the difference between right and wrong. So obviously he doesn't know the difference between right and wrong.
I am going to read off the main points in this case, just so we can see both sides of stories. Austin's father actually went out to the media and said that he forgives Karmelo, saying, the forgiveness is not for him, it's more for himself. He doesn't want to hold this sort of negative energy within himself of like hatred. So it's like, I'd rather just forgive him, but it's more for me, not for your actions.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. Like, he's forgiving him. Like we always tell people, if you always forgive but never forget, like, you have to be able to forgive people to move on. So he's just trying to move on with his life. He's not going to hold all this tension towards one person. I mean, he's a kid.
Right. Okay, so these are kind of like the main points of why Carmelo shouldn't be sentenced to a life in prison. So, number one, it's normal for students from different schools to gather under another school's tent. Carmelo had friends there. He wasn't trespassing or looking for trouble. Number two, the claim that one of the twins had never seen Carmelo before is a lie. Number three, no student has a right to remove another student from a school-owned tent. The school owns the tent, not the twins. Carmelo is a track athlete. The twins are not. He wasn't even expecting to see them there. And then these are more points. He's a respectful, well-mannered young man. He's a 4.0 student with multiple college offers, a kid with zero criminal history, not even a blemish, a son raised in a loving home by parents who taught him right from wrong. Carmelo defended himself against violent aggressions. That is not a crime. I mean, so essentially what they're saying is that it's like this was an incident that obviously it's very tragic. However, it wasn't like intentionally like planned. It wasn't like he's not a bad person. He acted within, his own means of like defending his, well-being. Everyone on the media, obviously there's different stories going around, and the story that most makes sense is that they were at a track meet. It was raining. He was taking shelter underneath another school's tent, and I don't think that it was right for him to. I mean, first of all, like, why would he be carrying a knife around school? So that's already kind of a red flag for me. And then two, it's like, okay, sure, you acted in self-defense, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to like take somebody's life to defend yourself.
But but I also think like a lot of people use that term self-defense as loosely, and just to get out of whatever they're doing.
Right.
Just like a lot of people plead insanity. They try to go for these insanity charges because if you're insane, then you don't get jail time. Same with self-defense. I just feel like they're just reaching for things
To try to get out of trouble, right?
To try to get out of trouble, and then, like I said, I don't know the details on all this. All I know is, just in general, if you do something bad, there is
consequences.
There's consequences, and you may be the best person in the world. You may be a saint in the community, but even people slip up once in a while. And when you do slip up, you have to pay for what you do, or at least show like responsibility. Like, yes, I did these actions and they were wrong, but it sounds to me like he's not even taking responsibility for what he did. He's blaming it on other people.
After he stabbed him, he ran. The cops were called. They chased him down and they, arrested him on the spot. I think his first comments to an officer was, "Is he going to be okay?" So a lot of people are using that kind of like to show some sort of like sympathy. It's like it wasn't like his intent to do it. So it's not like he's not a terrible person in society.
Well,
it was just a one-time mistake. I think like any other normal person, I feel like your first instinct, or you do something bad, run away from the problem. And I feel like, he's a 17-year-old. I think that it was just his initial reaction to just run away. Obviously, like, I don't agree with the actions. Self-defense to me is if someone pushes you, you push them back. If someone hits you, you hit them back. But you don't go from someone pushing your stuff or pushing you away from their tent to like, murder.
I mean, self-defense is like people are trying to kill you, so you are defending your life because someone's trying to kill you. Like if someone comes in your house with a gun and then you pull out a gun and shoot them, that's self-defense.
Right. I agree.
They have a lot to prove here. They have to prove self-defense. Self-defense is very hard to prove. So they got to prove by witnesses that there actually was another weapon, that people were trying to kill him. And like I said, I don't know the details for the case.
Well, what's it called? So supposedly, like these twins, so it was Austin and his twin brother, supposedly that were like starting this. Supposedly they're like quote unquote known bullies.
By who? Like who says these things though? That's what I said. Like they're known bullies. So who's saying these things? Like how do they know?
Like
they're
the
known
media.
bullies?
The media is. This is how like the media is portraying each side.
But we know the media is not always.
I know,
that.
but based off of like the media's perspective, like what's your take?
And it depends what media outlet you're watching. So
TikTok.
I'm sure if you're watching like BET, you're gonna have a whole new outlook on both the people. They'll paint them out to be differently than what they are. At Fox, of course, And the other stations will probably paint them out differently. So that's why, like, you really have to know the facts of this case, and you really have to know like what's going on. But in my opinion, like, if you take someone's life, you should there should be some time taken. And that's why they're using the self-defense thing, because they know if they can prove self-defense, which they're not going to. They got to prove like these other people had a weapon and that they were going to kill him. That's the only way you can prove self-defense. And then they'll ask again, why was he carrying a knife around with him?
Right.
And I'm sure they're going to say, well, because he's been bullied in the past. He's bullied. They're gonna go down that whole route.
But yeah, let us know what you guys think about like this whole controversy going around. I mean, I feel like if that is the case where it's like these two twins are bullies and this guy was just using self-defense, like, I mean, I would prefer a bully on the streets than someone that's a murderer.
But you know what, you guys? You let us know what you think about it. Until next time,
Stay street smart.